I'd like to welcome everybody to the September 28th Concord Carlisle Regional School Committee and call the meeting to order. Cynthia?
And I'd like to
Hi, Dr. Hunter. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'd like to call
Sorry, I think I was muted earlier, but it's Kara, Officer Palladino. Derek isn't able to make it tonight, but I'm here.
Oh, great.
So I'd like to call the Concord School Committee meeting to order.
Okay. And we will start the meeting with a moment for public comment. Although I don't see any members of the public.
I
No.
don't think so.
Okay. All right. So then we can move on to recognitions. And hi, Kara Palladino. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
We'd like to welcome one of our new school resource officers, Kara Palladino, who is here. We'd also like to welcome Derek Rodriguez, who unfortunately can't be here. But it's wonderful to put a face to the name and to get to know you.
It is.
Definitely. Same to you guys.
We appreciate you taking the time to be here. Thank you.
Of course.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Kara, could you tell us when you joined the force and what are your impressions of CMS this year now that everybody's back at the middle school?
Oh, Kara's mostly at the high school.
Then
Sorry, we should have clarified that.
We will. I'll direct that question at the high school. You've seen more of the high school than I have this year.
Yeah, so I have been in Concord just about 2 years. So I was just made the school resource officer this summer, and it's honestly been really great. So far, I love it even more than I thought I would. I have always wanted to work with kids, so I think that linking this with the passion for law enforcement is honestly like the perfect fit for me. So far it has been great, and I really look forward to continuing meeting everybody and having relationships grow with all the faculty, staff, and the students as well. So it's been really great so far.
Well, I'm sure I speak on behalf of all of my colleagues when I echo the chairs and say thank you. Thank you so much for being so very accessible to our high school students. You anticipate issues and problems. You notice issues and problems before they magnify, and I'm sure you solve a lot of things that nobody ever hears about. So thank you for that.
We try to do the best we can, but yes, of course, we're happy to be here and help in any way possible.
Fantastic. And then I'd like to also welcome Harry Crawley. And I don't know if Darcy.
Yep, that's Darcy there. Kara was actually on the phone.
Okay.
It's hard to see
It's
in here
hard to
tonight,
see.
I know.
Sorry.
Yep.
So Harry and Darcy, our new student representatives, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'd like to, first of all, take a moment to introduce ourselves to you, I think, and then we would love to hear about you guys and how the year's going. So we'll just go around the room and say hello.
Hi there, Tracy Morano.
Oh, hi, I'm Alexa Anderson.
My name is Court Booth.
Sarah Wilson.
Cynthia Rainey, Concord School Committee Chair.
Eva Mustafi, Regent.
You both know me.
Hi, Jared Stanton, Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations.
Hi, I'm Kristen Herbert, the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning. Welcome.
Welcome. And maybe you guys can tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Yeah, so my name is Harry. I am a sophomore at CCHS this year, and I am in Student Senate, which is kind of obviously how I'm in this position and here today. And that's been a really exciting opportunity. I think that's something we can talk maybe a little bit more about later if you guys want. And yeah, the year has been pretty good so far. It's definitely great to have everyone back and to be seeing people, especially after kind of a weird year last year. So yeah, I'm excited to be here, and school has been going well so far this year.
And hi, I'm Darcy. I'm also a sophomore at Concord Carlisle High School, and I'm also a part of Student Senate. And as Harry mentioned, we can maybe talk a little bit about that. But the year has been going really well, and teachers and staff are making a great effort to kind of help us get back to normal, whatever that is, following COVID, a year being hybrid mostly. And I'm really enjoying school so far. So I look forward to meeting you.
Well, thank you for being here. So let me tell you a little bit about, so we usually would have you on the agenda at a time that's convenient to have you guys present to us. This evening, we just wanted to get to know you, and you said you had some things that you wanted to share with us. And so I think we don't need to wait until later for an official report, but we can get right into it with you.
Yeah, I can start. So I don't think either of us really had a ton to talk about just for this first meeting, but I guess one of the things Senate has been working on recently is like an activities fair, and that's really been our big project so far this year. And essentially every club or like activity at CCHS gets a booth, and during all of the lunches they can come and try to recruit new members. Oftentimes it's a lot of freshmen, but obviously people from all of the grades come. And that was a really, sorry, there's a little bit of traffic noise, but that was a really, really big success. I know a lot of clubs got a ton of members. There are a few that I'm involved with leading that I think got almost 35 new members at the fair. So that has been a great success. And I think in general, there are a lot of things we're able to do this year that we weren't able to do last year because the COVID protocols were a little bit stricter. So it's been interesting to experience like all of these activities, you know, and kind of something that's a little bit more lenient towards COVID.
And yeah, so kind of as Harry mentioned, that was our big project that we've been working on recently. But last year, it's Harry's first year on Senate, and it's my second year. And last year, kind of falling at the end of the year, we organized a pop-up thrift shop that raised, I think it was over $2,000 for a local women's shelter. And then we organized 2 blood drives a year. All sorts of things. So yeah, we love being a part of the school and kind of doing different activities to help other people. Yeah, I think those were the big things we wanted to mention.
Great, thank you. You mentioned you're involved in a couple of other clubs, Harry. You want to tell us a little bit about?
Yeah, of course. So this year, one of my like biggest clubs is Innocence Project, and that's new. It actually started last year. I got involved with it. It's run by some of my friends who are now seniors, and it's been really exciting. Basically, we work with the Innocence Project, which is a larger national organization to exonerate the wrongfully convicted. And I've been sort of helping a little bit to run the club this year, and I think next year a friend and I might take it over when the current senior club leaders graduate. And we had a booth at the club fair. We got a ton of new signups, I guess you could call it, which was great. And then I'm also doing Green Team, which kind of works to like make CCHS a little bit more of a sustainable place. One of the big things we're talking about right now is lunches and how everything is packaged in plastic, because I know a lot of people have raised concerns about that being wasteful. And then another club I am doing is Investment and Finance Club, which is also really, really cool. I went to my first meeting today, and essentially with that, you do this like online simulator where you get $100,000 to invest in stocks. And then we do like a competition sort of to see who can make the most money off of it. So lots of clubs like that. And I actually joined a few clubs too at the club fair. I joined Junior State of America. And yeah, the clubs are actually a really great part of CC, and I'm very happy to be trying a lot of new things this year.
Fantastic. Darcy, do you have some favorite clubs?
Yeah, right now I do cross country, so that's 6 days a week, but I also do some clubs in addition to cross country. So I also do Junior State of America. I do Model United Nations, which we basically simulate the UN. And we have discussions. So I do a lot of discussion-based clubs. And then I also recently joined some clubs at the club fair. So the Innocence Project, which Harry is a big part of. And then also I'm part of the Spanish club as well.
Great. You guys, and you're doing this. So
Yes.
wow, thank you.
It's a Pretty full report.
Yes, it is.
I'm impressed.
Ad-libbing it, that was really great. Yep.
So,
Good.
well, we look forward to getting to know you guys well over the
Yeah.
year, and
Hear more about the Senate. I'm sure there's other
Yeah.
things that you guys
Yeah.
are working on,
Yeah.
so.
and you're welcome to stay for as long as you like, but we know you also sometimes have commitments to go to, often have commitments to get to. So
Sarah,
Yeah.
just from a housekeeping perspective, do Harry and Darcy get our agendas in advance so that they can see
Yeah,
what
they
what we
will.
have?
Yep, we're getting all our systems back in place. This was kind of last minute, so we just got connected with them
Right,
at the end of
sure.
last week. But they'll get our agendas and make sure they have the links. They're invited to be here in person, which based on the emails with me, I think they're both interested in trying to do that some of the time. So yeah, we'll get them all
Yeah.
set up.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Great. All right.
Okay, I'd like to have a motion to accept the minutes from open sessions of August 17th and August 31st of 2021.
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Was
Aye.
there any discussion? Sorry.
I thought they were quite complete.
Yeah, I did too.
Great. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, chairs and liaisons reports. Cynthia, do you want to start with?
Just briefly wanted to mention that we did meet with the Board of Selectmen last night, the Select Board, excuse me, and we had a good discussion. I think it's just the first step going through the capital planning process, and went through a spreadsheet, and we'll publish the spreadsheet with some narrative probably in the next couple of weeks, and I think the next step is to meet with the Finance Committee in November timeframe.
Hearing, I think.
Hearing, correct. So that's right there.
I think maybe next week, about how to address slavery within the curriculum. So he's very busy. And some of our goals that we talked about is to just really review our school committee policies, looking at that with the DEI lens and working with Andrew. And so he's working on his goals for this year. So ours will kind of fall into place as his fall into place. And then one thing that I did want to do is do some training for our subcommittee. So I've reached out to Dr. Khalees Warren, and I'm waiting to hear back from her. So hopefully we can do some training so we can look at our policies in a similar way. And then when we get the equity surveys, we'll be better equipped to look at those.
Yep, it was a great meeting.
Good.
Great.
Sure. I can give a quick update. The communication subcommittee of the CMSBC committee had a forum last Thursday. It was attended by maybe like 15-ish, I think, members of the community, and it went really well. Additionally, we had a nice article in the Concord Journal this week discussing little bits and pieces about the forum and the project in general. And, you know, as we continue to gear up, we're doing, you know, quite well, and we'll have a schedule of upcoming forums and community engagement opportunities coming shortly. Our subcommittee is hard at work getting those scheduled, and there will be many. So there will be ample opportunity in the next 3 to 4 months for engagement, which we're looking forward to.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks. Is there anybody that I missed? Do you have?
I was almost going to present on behalf of the two volunteer group, but we've still got data coming in, so I think we're going to have some quite impressive numbers to share about last year's community service activity at our next meeting.
We'll look forward to that then. Okay, and if that's it, then we can move on to correspondence. That the region, we just had a correspondence just about just with MM and it was a great correspondence because we're doing well.
And the Concord School Committee had a couple of pieces of correspondence about a personnel matter.
Okay, and so on to discussion then. I'd like to see if we can, Eva and I do have to zip out a little bit early to make the Carlisle Select
another
Board.
municipal matter.
Carlisle Select Board. So if it's okay with everybody, we'd like to move the items B, the first bullet point under B, the CTA salaries, and under discussion item C, the CPS FY21 ending balance, the CPS variance report by 100 function, the CPS variance report by 1,000 function, to the end of the meeting after action item, after
8.
Yep, after 8A,
Right.
and possible adjournment of the region at that time.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so is there a motion?
Somebody could just say so moved.
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes.
Okay.
And so with that, Dr. Hunter, a COVID update.
Great, thank you. So I thought I'd give you some data points first and some of the updates that have happened from Darcy recently so that we all had the same information for the items we want to discuss tonight. So just in terms of COVID cases, last week we had 3. So far this week we've had 1. I will note that that's better than we started. So we're at a total of 25. And you can hear that most of those happened prior to these last week and a half. So we're hopeful that that pattern is what's going to stay. So we're keeping an eye on that. Vaccination rates were at 84 and 87% in grades 7 and 8. And at the high school, we're at 89% in grades 9 through 11 and 92% in grade 12 for an average of 90, which both settings we're feeling really great about how that is. Testing, and in a minute I'll talk on the status of the testing, but these are the numbers from last week, which was just a partial week with a lot of challenges to it. And we still tested 1,126 kids, so we're pleased with that. The breakout is there, so you'll see the numbers. The elementary schools, we did test everyone who had been signed up to test. Middle school, we only tested grade 8, and the high school, we only tested 1 day. So it's partial data for sure. We had 1 positive case result out of the pooled testing last week. That was an adult case. In terms of the testing status itself, it's been a statewide challenge rolling out the subsidized testing program. The vendor got the state bid for the entire state. It's triple what they thought it was going to be for demand, and it's been a scramble since then. We are getting a lot of close personal attention right from the CEO and beyond to try to rectify what we've had for challenges. Ours have included software issues, their software issue, and making sure they know what's working and what they need to be working on. Initially, materials, that seems to have gotten better. Just in terms of processing, and probably the biggest challenge we experienced last week was we had signed up to do both the pool test and the individual swab. What we didn't get information on was that the individual swab was going to not get a label for it, and we were going to have to handwrite the kids' names on there. And that's just very labor intensive for sure. We tried to work with CIC to build the schedule based on when they could send us help. That help proved to not be as reliable as we had hoped. So then we had a schedule that was in hindsight, probably too ambitious anyhow, but we also didn't have the help we'd been promised. So it was a really challenging few days. So we did take a breath this week, as you know, to just sort of regroup, let CIC finish their software pieces, make sure we understand what we're getting for help. Each building's reworking their schedule, so it'll be based on what we were doing last spring generally. We were easily, smoothly testing over 2,000 kids a week, so we know we can do this. The part that I am going to pull back on is the second individual swab. When we spoke with CIC, only about half the schools are actually doing it. The reason I feel comfortable doing that is because now that we're using the antigen tests, we were immediately, and I mean immediately, able to test the pool and within minutes have 1 positive and eight negatives and send the 8 negatives back to class. So nobody was quarantined unless they were positive. And I think that's a big difference from where we were last year, where the PCR test took another day or so. So that's where we're at. I think next week we'll be ready to roll fully, and we'll be sure everybody knows that ahead of time. But a little bumpier than we thought it would be, but I think we're working through it now. Concord Board of Health, through Susan Rask, our health director in Concord, it was shared that at last week's meeting, they unanimously voted to support your decisions so far about masks in school. And, you know, just know that they're attentive and want to be part of being partners. I did reach out to Darcy and inquired about your questions about the asymptomatic testing of vaccinated students and staff. Their answer, which I understand has changed some with the CDC, but the protocol they developed at the time was based on the CDC recommendation not to test vaccinated individuals. So that's where they still are. Last week, they reminded us about close contacts in schools, which we are following exactly as written in the memo. It wasn't a change to the protocol. It was a simple reminder. What did get rolled out yesterday, because the mask mandate was due to expire Friday. So 2 things happened yesterday. One was an extension of the mask mandate to November 1st. The second is what I consider preliminary information on what we knew was in the mix here of whether there's a threshold for vaccinated percentages of students that would then make you consider stepping back from the mandate and coming at the mask wearing a little bit differently. What we heard from the commissioner when we met with him was that they have more work planned, that they aren't probably going to stick with just the vaccination threshold of 80%, but wrap around that some other metrics for local districts to consider. So that's where I see that as at right now. That not that it's an automatic off ramp. It's this could be an option, but maybe not yet. While the state still supports the idea of masks in schools for another month. And I think a month at a time is the way to do this. We're all watching the numbers statewide and locally. We certainly all want to learn more about an off-ramp to masks and how we're going to approach that. And I think the state's committed to guiding us more than they have so far. There is a webinar that we will certainly participate in on Friday. And part of that has been described to be more details on some of these things. So I think there's more to come from Darcy on these next steps. So that's where we are. And we can talk on any pieces of that you'd like to.
So it sounds like pending a little bit about, well, definitely this webinar and some more information from when our testing program is really fully operational. There's not too much to discuss, I think, tonight.
No, I think you'd be in a different place if the November 1st mandate hadn't happened yesterday. I think that is Darcy being supportive of masks. But it's also a good opportunity to keep having the conversation of where do we go?
And we
with the
do meet
masks.
again before the 15th of
Yeah.
October.
Yeah.
So in
Yeah.
any event, we have an opportunity to revisit this
Yep.
once we have a little more clear guidance, a
Yeah.
little more guidance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we can do as like a school committee from a fiduciary stand, like of offering more support to help with the testing, or is it
So we've
more
regrouped
complicated than that?
somewhere about Wednesday afternoon. I texted Jared and said we're using some of that COVID money to bring back some of the other nurses that helped us last year, the ones we hired. So we've brought back our per diem people to do more support to us. The state will still send us what they can, but now it's going to flip and, we'll send them wherever we're testing, not try to test based on them coming. So we did did bump up our own local supports, and that'll be COVID money that we use to spend that. So thank you for asking.
Are there any other questions?
I just want to say kudos to the kids. I happened to be around in the schools when the testing was happening, and with the little guys, they know the process, and they sort of just embrace it, and a lot of fun moments as we got going, and they're pros, mentoring each other, and it's kind of an interesting world we're creating here for these little ones.
Are the percentages at the I'm most obviously concerned about the elementary schools, which are entirely, from a student perspective, unvaccinated kids. I forget how many kids are in each school. Are these good percentages again?
Yeah, they're very good. We're going to bring you October 1 enrollments, which is always an annual, threshold and real significant benchmark because our funding is based on it. We are at between 400 and 425 at each elementary school. So you're looking at numbers 240 and above with two schools over 300. So really great start.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I just want to reiterate that those vaccination numbers are fully vaccinated students.
Correct. I did check, and there's about 30 kids district-wide who have one partial vaccine, so those numbers will leak up a bit more as they get fully vaccinated.
But the state says we're at 95.
Well, that's the DPH number. It is all kids in Concord and Carlisle, too, not just the ones that attend our schools.
Yep.
So, little room for discrepancy there. But.
And if there's a medical or religious exemption on kids, do people provide documentation for that?
Well, so we haven't mandated the vaccine, so they don't need to provide that.
Okay.
You did mandate the staff being vaccinated, so they are
they provide
providing
that.
that. I have 5 up until now, which I don't think is going to grow much now that we're almost to October. So,
Good.
yeah, that's all gone very well.
There was mention that the nursing personnel might be overtaxed. Where do you think we stand?
Yeah, I think
right
we're
now?
rectifying all of that, both by bringing in the per diem people we had been using in last year. The handwriting of that second tube is just, for the returns we're getting on that amount of work, just isn't really significant enough.
Even if there were a label, it seems.
The label would have given us a better chance at it, I think, but the handwriting. So by deciding we're not going to do the second pool, this is all very manageable again.
Good.
Yeah, so thanks for asking there. I can't say enough about our nursing staff and the way they've taken on COVID from day one and continue to evolve here. Yeah.
Yeah, many thanks to them.
All right.
And many thanks to the community, because it seems that
Yes.
people
Yeah.
are doing the
Very
right
engaged,
things. And-
very much
Yep.
part of how we're going to keep school working, and
Yep.
all those great things Harry and Darcy were talking about are happening because of these things. So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. So we can move on from
Sounds like it for right now.
from
Okay.
COVID. Yay.
Yep.
Okay, so Jared,
Great.
do you like to share with us some salaries and 5-year projections?
Certainly. I don't know if we want to project that or it's in the packet for the audience. So CCTA teachers. So what we're doing right now for the finance project, for the finance committee, is we are basically doing 5-year projections for every staff member. Obviously, our 2 largest units are teachers. So what I wanted to show you tonight was CCTA and sort of my methodology on how I came up with these numbers. So starting right at the top, FY22, 17,094,167. That is our starting place. That is our current obligation for FY22 teachers. So we did negotiate with them, as you know, this past year. I redid every single number, and so this is based on the 156 FTEs we currently have. There are 2 assumptions that in this. The first one is that every single year we will get at least $50,000 in retirements, and then so I reduced that, and I'll show you how I did that, and then an additional $10,000 in longevity, and you'll see that at the bottom. I did spell longevity wrong. I didn't catch that. So just going through this, 156 FTEs, 73 of our current 156 CCTA members are currently receiving longevity. So our total obligation for that unit is $17,336,000. Now for FY23, what I did is I rolled everybody up. I reduced the obligation by $50,000 off the top for retirement. I'm assuming 156 FTEs throughout the 5 years worth of projections. So these numbers are a bit inflated. This is probably the highest. If no one retires or we get minimal retirement, these are the highest the numbers are going to be. So we're expecting about a 3.63% increase with everyone that's on steps and lanes, as well as the COLA, which is 2.5% for FY23. And then we're adding about 7 people on for longevity, which is increasing the longevity projection by just under 11%. And then the total obligation or increase is 3.73. So for FY24, you see the difference between 24 and 23. It's about 3.84%. FY24 is a 2.75% increase. That is the final year of the CCTA contract. The projected longevity is going up 5 FTEs from 23 to 24. Therefore, our total obligation is just under 4%. Now, for the final 3 years, this is an assumption. I just use a 2.5% COLA. Therefore, the total obligation FY25 is going up 3.66%, but another 6 people getting longevity. FY26, 3.6%. And lastly, FY27 total obligation is going up 3.53%. So did everyone follow that? Sort of how, there's a lot of backup to this, but this is the summary. Make sense? Good. So this is what I plan on doing for the Finance Committee. Now, our other units are a little more predictable. The reason for that is because mostly everybody is on top step. For the smaller units, such as maintenance, custodial, tutors, a lot of them are at the top step. So I'm expecting their increase to be around probably around 3%, give or take, maybe a little bit less. But I got to run those numbers.
I think this is very clear.
Good.
Thank you
for Thank you. making
this understandable.
Sure. Yeah. I told you before, this is the work that I do enjoy doing. So we actually did a projection before this without doing any of the numbers, and we were right there. We knew that it would be around this total percentage. Just because every year you're looking at just under 4%, pretty much in every district, between 2 and 2.5% COLA. So.
Am I correct that embedded in this are other assumptions such as enrollment staying much the same, ratios
Yeah.
staying much the same?
Yeah.
And we don't have any NASDAQ data to say otherwise at this time?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
When might we see a roll-up of those other smaller units?
Yeah, so I think by hopefully next Friday.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the plan is for next Friday, I'm going to be presenting to you on the 12th. I'm going to be giving you the fall sort of financial budget book that we have every single year, and in that will be pretty much what I'm going to be giving the Finance Committee. So their memo to me, that letter is going to be, we'll answer everything and then some in that fall budget book. And then can talk to you if you'd like it presented, or if you just wanted me to go over the book on the 12th.
I think it'd be helpful to have when you're done, just sort of as you're done, to get the information so that we're not necessarily getting everything just the Friday before the meeting, when, in the agenda posts.
Yeah, okay.
To whatever extent possible.
Yeah, it's yeah, I'll do my best. It's a lot of work. So I'll be working most of the week doing it, but we also have to put the budget book together. I know the budget book will probably come out right on Friday at the deadline. But if I can get you sort of summaries beforehand, I can certainly do that. Because
At
I'm
least some previews
Sure.
so that we can sort of have our antennae up
Yeah.
for certain things that we might
Yeah.
want to dig deeper into.
Mhm.
I think if it,
We might guess that FinComs would be looking at this through the lens of their guideline thinking. I'm imagining the school committee is going to be looking at it through the lens of changes in any programs and what we might foresee initiating or consolidating or because we know we do have some multi-year program initiatives underway.
Yep.
So I think that'll be one of our contextual areas.
Sure.
To help further understand this. This is where we need to start, to be sure. Thank you.
Sure.
very nicely done. Thank you. Okay. Yep. Next is the variance report.
All right. So it's going to be if we can put up the CCRSD revolving gift other grant account balances. And that's what I'll go over first. So this is just the end of year revolving gift and other activity balances. It's around where I projected when I reported to you last May and June. The ones that we really look at are the athletic revolving, the circuit breaker, and as you know, for circuit breaker, we can carry over what we received the prior year before. So in FY21, we received $872,560. So we're carrying that over, which is a good contingency there. And then OPEB, you can see that balance has grown. And then the school lunch revolving as well. So that's down a little bit. But that's a number that we felt comfortable carrying. And right now, our enrollment in school lunch is incredible right now. I would say it's doubled the participation right now. So they're putting out a lot of lunches and doing a great job. So.
And this held much to what you brought this spring, much of what we anticipated is what came to be as you closed out, right?
Mhm. Yes, there is really no real changes. Yeah. Any questions?
Just, not tonight, but if we could get a list of what the other funds and gift accounts are,
Sure. Yep. Yep.
and then what are we expending out of them? for?
Sure.
Yeah, it's not that much, but I'm just, and I keep beating the drum, but the athletic account budget, it's just, it makes me uncomfortable because it should be zero, carry a little, 75K or something, not this sort of large. I think we sort of missed the boat on trying to drop that during COVID.
Yeah.
But we'll just keep an eye on it.
That did grow in FY20 due to the shutdown, and it's been large ever since. As you know, you can only expend it on, yeah, but yeah, certainly.
I'm not sure whether to direct this at Lori or Jared or Sarah. When would be an appropriate time to see the next update on COVID-related monies?
Yeah, I can present that at any time. I did in June, and not much has changed, but I can certainly get you another memo and get you what's been expended out of that in our balances.
That would be the prior funding. You're going to talk tonight about SR3, which is the newest and latest. So we'll have Jared do
The clock runs out
that.
on the first round, 23.
I'm sorry, I missed that?
The clock runs out.
Yeah, so right now, we have to spend, this year, we have to spend the DESI Emergency Relief 1, and that is due, it's actually not due for another year.
Right.
Yeah.
Originally, it was due this December. was it
They
not?
they extended it, yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
You got it. We'll get you that. Okay, so now we have the variance report. I'm gonna start with the 100. I think you all have seen this format before. So this is unaudited, but we feel right now that we're going to have an ending balance of about $592,000. You'll notice in the adjustments, the $200,000 increase, that is monies that was moved over from E&D to go to the stabilization account. So that money will be replenished. Therefore, we feel that this $592,000 will get us close to the 4.99% or 5%. It's going to be around 4.8-ish once it's audited and everything, which is a really good position to be in.
Good.
And then if you go to the 100s, Tracy, I don't know if you've seen those before, but basically that is just about 50 lines worth of the detail behind the 1,000 accounts. And you'll always see that the adjustments will always be zero. And the year-to-date expenditures plus the encumbrances plus the balance will always equal the adjusted budget.
Okay.
Yep.
Except for the classroom teachers.
Except for the
Yes.
All right.
And that's, just so you know, the classroom teachers is where we have our contingency account. So at the end of I always keep us in balance. So I always move available monies to the contingency. And then we make transfers from the contingency to other places to fill the gaps if we need to.
Okay.
At the end of the year, all monies will be moved to the contingency, and that's where that money is.
Okay.
Would I be correct, this is year 2 of a thorough alignment with DESE on our part?
We've always somewhat been in line, but they keep changing it. So yes, we're pretty in line with DESE's chart of accounts. They change it often, but it's not like something would be reported in the 2000s, but we're carrying it in the 1000s. It could be like a 2300 when the DESE code is 2305, something like that.
Not enough to keep you awake at night?
No.
Yeah.
And we have a crosswalk that we have, our end of year report is due actually at the end of the week. And we have a crosswalk that we use every single year with the DESE functions versus what we have. And it's audited and everything. But everything is close.
And I should know the answer to this, I don't. The encumbrances will be charged against fiscal 21 in
They will all be
in
charged
their
against
entirety?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why once we're fully closed out, then everything pretty much drops to zero. Yeah. And that's why our number might adjust a little bit, maybe 10 to 20 grand one way or the other. But everything here is just it's going to be paid, but just hasn't as of this point.
But not enough to move too far
No.
beyond the 4.8 or 4.9.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. We think it could be about 4.8, but between 4.8 and 4.9.
All right.
Great.
On to the budget timeline.
Excellent. So this budget timeline, we are now in the best time of the year, budget time. Right, Kristen? So fun.
That's why you're a good balance to each other.
I feel like we just got out of it too. So this is the budget timeline. So it started on Tuesday. So really quickly, basically the way that it works is from the 21st until October 22nd, I'll be meeting with all the principals, all the department chairs, all the departments, and work with them on the zero-based budget. On October 1st, we send out the October 1st enrollments, and as Sarah said before, our assessments are based on the October 1 enrollment for the region. And then some other dates here that are important to note is obviously the 12th, I'm going to be presenting to you all on the Concord FinCom's budget request. We're going to be giving a presentation to the Concord FinCom on the 21st. The Carlisle, we just scheduled. That's going to be on the 27th. And then from November 1st to November 5th, we basically block out the whole week, the admin team, and we meet with all of the departments and all of the principals, and that's when the budget really comes together. So we'll be presenting the superintendent's recommended budget on December 7th. And then we'll be going to Concord and Carlisle to present. And I put in January 11th for you all to have a target to vote the school committee budget, but you have until the 28th of January. So if you need to schedule some meetings after the 11th, I just thought that would be a good target date. And then there's some other dates that I put in there, sort of to be determined, such as the public hearing, the Concord Finance Committee public hearing. On April 8th, the big budget book will be out, so I think that would give people a good 3.5 weeks to review that.
Haven't we always made that available to the public at the hearing?
Not the budget book.
Haven't we?
Yeah.
Mr. Booth?
Not under me. Yeah.
You think on the March date and the March 10th?
Yes.
The reason for that is my opinion is the budget could change. It could change between those dates. So if I'm doing it on March 8th, that means I'm working on it in February and January, but those numbers would change. So we want to my goal is to get the superintendent's budget book out there when it's as accurate as possible.
I think we have to have them very accessible, clearly marked replacements for what's going to be the compiled budget book. So on our website, very clearly, the capital plan, the budget as we know it today.
Yep.
Because I do think that we should try to move to have the budget book at the public hearing.
Yeah,
That was
certainly we used to, and I think COVID's disrupted any routine we had,
Yep.
basically. But I do remember the challenges that as town meeting got closer, and sometimes there were almost 2 months between, especially if we weren't synced up with the guideline yet, when the budget book came out, it did sometimes prove to be a challenge that as we got closer to town meeting, people were referencing an out-of-date document. So somewhat we were able to accommodate that by printing less hard copies and doing more electronic, because we could just keep posting updated versions. It's just a tricky balance of what's logistically manageable and what isn't. So
let's just go through what's in the big budget book and be sure that those components, for the most part, are easily
Yes,
available and
yeah.
updated as
Yep.
things change.
Right,
Yeah.
because it's not that the information in the budget book hasn't been available up until then. It's just been in different places through agendas and such, so.
Because people go to the hearing to ask questions.
Yeah,
and people
no,
come to our
correct.
hearing,
Yeah.
and if they don't.
Correct.
Some people like that tactile little book to
Yeah.
go through,
Yeah.
so.
We've been printing, most of it's been electronic. You've printed on request, maybe 15-ish.
Yeah.
So we can definitely navigate that, so people have what they need when they need it, and we're current with whatever numbers people are looking at.
And I'll reference too, when I give presentations and give updated budget books, we do put it on the website under an FY23, and I'll just make sure that it's up to date, clean, and
then,
dated.
Just a comment for the fall budget book that you're putting together, if we could be sure to put draft, especially on the capital plans, as we
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
won't.
Yes.
Yep.
Good
I just
point.
don't want them to assume that they're
Yeah.
approved final.
Gladly.
Yeah, people see the word budget and they see finality. You and I see budget and we see process.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. Yes, good point.
Okay.
Great.
All right, so on to the SR3 grant.
Sure, and I'm gonna let Jared hop in here at any point. This is a combined team effort. So as part of the American Rescue Plan of 2021, all districts throughout the country are receiving these ESSER funds, which is the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. You can see our numbers there. We're just under $1 million at CPS and just under 200,000 at the region. So it is significant money. Really important to note that it's not meant to be spent immediately. We have through September 30th of 2024. So This is the, having lived this in another time, place, and situation, this is the money to get you through COVID pandemic impacts, both student needs and fiscal, and you need to strategize it accordingly. So that's a pretty big part of the discussion and way we're going to need to navigate this. There are very specific requirements, which I won't read to you. You have to reopen school. 20% has to go to lost instructional time. The rest needs to be really clearly laid out. And there are broad categories there. So there's quite a bit of space to decide how you want to allocate the funds. We do have to consult with stakeholders, which we've been doing over the last week, and getting a nice response, so we can bring you some of that. Assurances of how those different types of interventions are going to happen, and any consideration you might have for some of those disproportionately impacted, such as low-income students of color, English learners, or disabilities. So the survey went out. We're getting, like I said, a nice response that I haven't even looked at yet. I've just sort of glanced at the numbers to be sure they're still coming in, the staff, the community, et cetera. Some of the things we're considering, and I think I want to stress, and Jared's going to probably want to take this to another level, we're considering these as a long-term, almost stabilization approach. Other districts are adding supports and programs. We were able, because our budgeting process were well supported, we were able to request another nurse. We were able to request some things that have already been in place. And so there's probably some room to discuss of whether this could just be offsets to some of those things, because that'll help us to, maintain a nice stable budget request year to year. The concern we have, and I know we've talked about this, if you're adding programs out of one-time money, when that money's gone, you're scrambling to try to sustain the programs. And that can be a really difficult place to be, especially these kinds of dollars, because it's not a small amount you're going to be trying to come up with a differential for. So our list right now, and we're going to work through this and happy to take your feedback, summer school certainly, and it can be, part of what we're one of the only districts I know who offers a regular education summer program to start with. So it's important to note what we already do that could be supported here. RTI and the expansion of how that's rolled out. Kristen's here to talk if there's questions on that. We did add a reading specialist this summer before we knew about this money, because we saw those needs, and have that in place. We could look at funding counselors at CMS and CHS, especially. Specialized program, which is our special education needs in or out of district. It can be applied to both. And then if there's any programmatic needs for students of color. So we owe the government a first round of thinking on this. There is room, because it's such long-term, can be amended and adjusted. We don't have to stick with exactly the way we lay it out. But that's the big picture. I think our recommendations, the 20% should be fairly well addressed through the summer school process. We want to run the numbers there over the next few days into next week. And then I think there is a menu of options there that are things we are already doing. If you have any priorities you want to let us know about, we didn't want to bring you a package draft without you getting a chance to give us any feedback.
Just to clarify, the funds available through September 30th, they have to be expended, accounted for, right?
2024.
Yep, September 30th.
It's not expended by September, though, is it?
It's encumbered by?
Encumbered by,
That's
correct.
my
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
yes, yep.
okay. So if you're waiting for a delivery or
Oh, yeah.
something, or you have something.
Yeah,
that's-
so really it's going to
It just needs to be
trickle
accounted
into
for
the
by that time, but not
24-25
necessarily spent.
school year.
I can't have like a quote for 10/1/2024 and expect to get that through. Everything's going to be already.
I'd like to share a couple of ideas for
Great.
the committee to consider, and then bring your way if the committee is in support. One, when we identify students in need of regular ed, additional supports and direct them towards summer school, typically fewer than half can avail themselves of summer school. So I would ask, are there other interventions and support mechanisms that would serve this kind of community better? I think we need to think about
Outside
that.
of the structured summer school, we're talking about summer enrichment?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would
Yeah.
be good to explore.
Because that's not the only way to address, as
Doesn't
Dr.
fit
Hunter
for
well
all
knows.
families.
Some families can never avail themselves of it, given the way the family plan is structured for the course of a year. Secondly,
That'd
we're-
be at CPS, or maybe. you think about
well,
that.
there's a very small summer school at the high school. It's mostly K-8. Lori can correct me, but the majority of students served at the high school are served through their summer service, summer
That is still
IEP.
Kristen can chime in along
yeah.
the way anytime.
So it's
Yep,
mostly K-8.
correct.
Secondly, we're a week off of a meeting with the select board to think creatively about the middle school. And they're very desirous of us to collect ideas. If we're going to build a school that has superior filtration and other health benefits, is this something that within a $100 million budget would be insignificant, but within our capacity would be a huge contribution,
Yep.
given our capacity. So I think that would be one that would bear some scrutiny too.
Yes,
Our understanding is it can go towards sustainability efforts. I don't, yeah.
The only really thing we found out right now you can't use the money on is something like central office expenses, like Ripley. Everything else that we've read, and we're still learning more about it, is you can almost use anything.
It's intentionally broad,
Yeah.
I think, because it really is a stabilization attempt here more than anything.
But the priority would be to address learning loss and.
You
needs of-
absolutely must do
absolutely
that
must
through
do that.
20%. So that's
Okay.
the earmarked part. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it with the rest. It
Right.
just means that's the minimum.
Okay.
Yeah.
so that's a chunk, that's a good chunk of Concord Public Schools. And
Yeah.
even it's
Yeah.
not, nothing at the high schools.
And just to underscore Court's point about a tutoring program or something that would be instead of or in addition to summer school. We have a tiny model of that now because often our English language learners cannot come to summer school, although they're all invited. But sometimes they go home to another country or something like that. So we run a tutoring program for them during the year with the same staff before school or after school, and we pay them the same rate. But that's the kind of thing that I think you're talking about. Yeah.
That would be an example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a deadline to be met for that 20% that is supposed to go to bridging those gaps? It would make sense to do that as soon as possible, right? Practically, it would make sense that you would be bridging those gaps the first year. But do they assign a deadline? when
Not
this
within
money-
not within the range up to the 2024 year.
Okay.
So they don't
it's
make
still
you
on-
get going on it earlier. I see why you suggest it, but that isn't part of the way they've written it.
And do you have any of those survey results from Challenge Success that, that we could look at to
Yes.
see, where
Yep. There's
we
no
see
question
some
mental health
significant needs
is
are?
a
Yeah.
need. The data shows that. I'm pretty sure the surveys are going to show that as they come in. So, yeah.
Can I ask a question? On bullet point, I guess 5, like what, could you give me an example of something a specialized program for children with special needs in and out of district might be?
It's wide open. You could
Yeah.
pay tuitions for out-of-district programs. You could subsidize the salaries of the in-district programs.
Okay,
It's
so, okay.
very, very broad.
Wilson training, would that?
Sure,
Yeah.
yep, professional development, yeah.
Okay, great.
I want to just echo what you said, Jared, and acknowledge its importance, that we have to be mindful if we take on new initiatives, we will be somewhat obligated to maintain them.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're going to be back to your projections.
Right.
Especially if it's an FTE.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
That-
good point.
That's,
One of the things too, just keep in mind, if we do add a professional staff member to that grant, we would have to pay MTRS. So, and you pay it twice. So that's a cost, that's an added cost. That's why we don't really have many staff members in our grants.
And you mentioned that there was a language teacher added.
Reading
language
Reading specialist at the high school.
Oh, that's at the high school.
Yes, which is already proving very valuable. No question.
And
So I-
sorry, and did we get any other feedback to see what, if there is an increase of needs and use by students of the SERP and MERP, and if we need any more tutors, if there is a need in that area to get the kids caught up?
Yeah, I think we can check on that. I haven't heard we're overflowing, but we can certainly see what the concern is. Because remember the semester's not hitting, we're just halfway point in the first quarter, so that's not likely completely reflective of kids' needs. You're right, Krista, keep an eye on it.
We're just thrilled that we have interventionists back online as interventionists because some of them, not all, but some of them, reading specialists, math specialists, and so forth, had to act as classroom teachers for remote students last year. So now it's like a wonderful surprise. So we're just in the ending process of assessing everybody, both with math, reading, writing, and then also the social emotional with the peer assessment. And so I would say in about a week or two, at every level, we'll know exactly which students need the intervention soonest, and then we have the professionals to put them right to work. Yeah.
And when does that assessment happen? Does it happen in the classroom or in the advisory group? When are you able to?
At the high school, it happens in their 9th grade English classes or math classes, and then in the advisory for the mental health piece. Yeah.
So we'll keep you posted. Again, this is a little somewhat fluid as we make our way through it. We'll bring you more information.
MCAS 2021 results.
Yeah, I'm actually going to throw this to Kristen. This is meant to just be the first pass at bringing you, well, notice that the results were released essentially. And then Kristen can talk a little bit about what we're planning here. We don't know when the individual student results are going to be available to us to distribute, which I found an interesting way to roll out test results. So we have the aggregate. We're obviously looking at those. Kristen's drafted this parent letter when we do have results. Everything's with a little bit of knowledge that standardization was nowhere to be found, and yet we gave a standardized test. So to us, it's a data point, not the data point. Anything more you want to talk on?
Yeah, I would just remind everyone that we give MCAS in grades 3 through 8 in English and math, and then also in grade 10. And then in science, we give it in grades 5, 8, and 10. And usually there's a big deal right now because a lot is done with those scores. So the accountability levels, we're usually in level 1 or 2, the top levels. We look at individual student scores. We make sure everybody's on track to graduate in the 10th grade scores and so forth. And then we also look very deeply at our curriculum using the MCAS scores, but that is not happening to the same depth because there was incredible abnormality in the testing, which is basically what I say in the letter. So 2 years ago, we didn't take any MCAS at all, so we have no baseline. Last year, there were 3 big abnormalities. Usually, the first one is that the testing window was sometimes 6 to 8 weeks long, and if you know your kids, it makes a difference if they take the MCAS before they've had the geometry unit or after they've had the geometry unit, for example. So that's a huge difference. Usually we get about a 10-day window to give each exam. And then the other one is that all of the tests, like let's say fifth grade English language arts, have two sections. So the first one is usually a lot of short answer, multiple choice, maybe one essay. The second one has many more essays, a few multiple choice, and so forth. So each student last year only took one of those tests. So they just split it. So they're not equal tests. So some kids had more essays, some kids had more multiple choice. So that was another abnormality. And then they just averaged everybody's scores. And then the last one, which was probably the biggest, is that across the state, about 20% of the students took the test at home. So that also does something to the results. So you probably heard on the news statewide, the results went down significantly, mostly in math, a little bit in English language arts, but a lot in math. And so, we're taking that kind of with a grain of salt as we look at them, but we have done an evaluation of how our students did. And we're really proud of them. And we are terrifically thankful for our teachers who figured out how to teach in that weird environment we were in last year. So our scores went down a little bit. I'm not concerned about it because we have our internal measures that we use with the STAR 360, given now grades K all the way up through grade 10. And so we've been tracking how kids are doing this entire time, even though MCAS is a little, it's essentially a very similar assessment, but we're pleased with how our kids are advancing. Yeah.
Good.
And certainly that's the first of many assessment and data updates and instructional pieces that we're going to bring. We just didn't want to ignore the fact that the MCAS had gone public, so.
Next year.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, all of it's going to be really interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
If you'll forgive an interruption, we have been contacted by somebody who's been watching us. In spite of Minuteman Media's tremendous efforts, we're told that Zoom participants are being heard from all viewers, and we are not being heard because of our masks, and we've got to get closer to the microphone.
It's the mics, I would suspect, yeah. Try to really be conscientious about that.
For those suffering the meeting at home, sorry, we'll work on it. And again, thanks to MMN, who's really knocked themselves out trying to make it possible to improve the audio.
A real commitment to make this work, and it's still a work in progress, perhaps. But I do think, to your point, the mics make a huge difference, so we'll just be more aware.
Good.
And they even brought new mics. I think you noticed that.
So what do we need? We need to be about that far away, right?
Mark, how? A few inches or so?
Within 6 inches just helps.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I just got alerted that it's now back, so that's good.
Okay.
So,
Good.
what that's worth.
It doesn't seem consistent. Someone else says it's fine. So we'll keep working at it.
Okay, so I think we can go to the calendar update.
So, you want me to just hop in?
Yeah.
So we're just tweaking the dates that you approved last spring. We had another look, Kristen can jump into this one too, had another look at the early release dates at the high school, which also aligns with our professional development paths. We had asked you to approve a calendar, which you did, with one of the 4 dates as February 12th. After Kristen worked with the high school leadership, it makes more sense. This includes the CCTA to back it up into January 9th, because the end of January is the turnover of semesters. So it's always a discussion of which side of that you want to be on. And now we're looking to be on the earlier side to go to the January 9th half day.
Is it supposed to be January 9th? The calendar I'm looking at says January 9th is Sunday.
That would be good. Early release day.
That's what I thought. We'll double check it though. Oh dear. Kristen, do you have the date handy?
Yep.
Sorry about that.
The two dates are just switched, so it's switching from February 9th to January 12th.
Got it. Thank
Yep.
you. That's probably my fault.
And do you know, where does that fall in terms of the finals schedule?
So the January date puts us well before the finals, which is why the teachers asked that we change it. So then the finals are at the end of January, and then we switch semesters, so kids go to all new classes mostly new classes in
Yeah.
February. Yep.
Great catch.
Okay. Yeah. So when you make the motion, reverse the
Yes.
numerical
I
dates.
think the kids would be very sad.
Yeah, the kid.
It might not be so fun on a
I
Sunday.
know. Oh dear. Thanks for catching that.
Okay, so is there a motion to change the early release dates for the high school from February 9th, 2022 to January 12th, 2022, to better align with the semester schedule?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll get that out.
And I think with that, we could have a motion to adjourn the regional school committee meeting and leave the Concord School Committee in session.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Off to your next meeting.
Long night, ladies.
Yes. Sure you have a meeting. All right. So we'll give a.
I've done that run from Concord to Carlisle in one night. It's a lot, so thank you.
Dear. All right, Mr. Stanton, we're
All
back
right.
to CTA salaries.
Wonderful. Okay. So this is organized the exact same way, except that we have 223.6 FTEs. That was the accurate number as of 9/13. A couple assumptions that we have, instead of 50,000, I took 200,000 per year for retirements, and I reduced the longevity by 20K per year. So currently, there are about 94 FTEs on the longevity. Total obligation for FY22 is $23,179,158. FY23 with a 2.5% increase and reducing it by 200,000. I'm expecting about a 3.6% increase. The projected longevity is going up due to the contract, 36.3%, but the total overall obligation is going up 3.83%. We're expecting 11 people to go up and to go into longevity in FY23. FY24, that is the year that there is a 2.75% increase. Therefore, you're seeing a higher than normal increase in the obligation of 4.74%. Longevity is going up 115,000. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's going up 20% or 85,000. And then for FY25 through FY27, I used the same 2.5% COLA. So again, these numbers they're inflated. That's if it really that we only got 200,000, that there were no other exits, etc. I expect these numbers to come in a little bit lower, and it will be interesting to compare this in 27.
When you project the 200 per year for retirements, approximately how many FTEs is that?
That's 4 ish, 4 or 5.
And how many were at the CTA with that 50,000?
Like 1.
Oh, okay.
So I could have gone more aggressive, but
How many retirements do we have this year? It's a weird year.
Not
I know,
many.
It's hard to
There's a lot of people telling us they're probably getting ready. So I actually think this is an interesting approach. I actually think people stayed to get through COVID and then not leave under the COVID umbrella. So you would have thought it would have been the opposite. Like, if I can get out of here, I'm getting out. And that is not how our people handled it. They're like, this isn't how I want to go. So I actually think there is a pool of people considering it.
But we do have a large number of people coming into longevity on the lower side. We're going to,
Yep.
so these numbers are big. I mean, there's no way to, we're going to have to, this is going to, we have to sharpen our pencils going forward in the next couple of years, I think.
One of the offsets will be the early retirement incentives will be going off the book. So that was how I sort of justified it to myself that we can get these numbers in and then build them into the budget.
We just, especially at Concord Public Schools, we just have to be very aware of a huge gorilla number coming from the middle school into people's tax bills. So just all this together, I think we have to look at the big picture as a.
Our zero-based budgeting gave us comfort a couple of years ago. It doesn't give us a lot of comfort now. If we were to consider these somewhat non-discretionary expectations, then what's discretionary is a very small part of our budget. So to your point. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Thank you for putting this together
Yeah,
once
sure.
again.
It's really useful.
Very, very helpful. And you'll have the accompanying smaller unit projections coming out
Yeah.
at some point. I don't think we're holding our breath for that. But,
Yeah.
Much smaller impact.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Excellent.
Any other questions? We're on to the ending balance.
Great. So why don't we take a look at the revolving accounts? Again, there shouldn't be any surprises here. The circuit breaker, we were able to carry over the max, $649,694. The school lunch revolving, just over $241,000. And those were the two big ones that, we manage, like I said, on a weekly basis.
And are we seeing the same uptick in
Yes.
lunches? Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
What did you ask, Cynthia?
The lunch program is.
Oh, more people up
are
to,
using it.
yeah.
Yeah. I think I should really have Bryce come one night
you should.
because I mean,
Great.
in my district, I'm not going to name it. I often compare where I'm from to here, and especially the food service program, and it's not even close. I think the other day we were offering 10 offerings. We're offering like 10 per day at the high school. It's unbelievable.
With the COVID restrictions.
With the yes. Even today with the water main break, Bryce is like, I got it. I got ideas. Texting him at 6:35 in the morning, and he's like, yeah, we'll figure something
We
out.
do need the water there.
Well, it's true, yeah, but so it's just a wonderful program. I just have to say that.
I do have a high schooler that buys every day, has lunch at the high school every day from the high school and really enjoys it.
Yeah.
So, there are a lot of choices and good choices.
Yeah.
And just even the way we've approached some of the packaging, and I know their kids are right about the plastics and all, but I was at Thoreau last week and they were getting, the pizza day is now coming in an individual sized pizza box. Like, who wouldn't love that as a
Yeah.
kid to be able to
Yeah.
take that? And they're carrying it outside because we're
Yes.
eating outside. So the fact we're sustaining a healthy program is really great.
And the choices really are health. They
Yeah.
look good.
They're
Yeah.
good.
And I am meeting with the green team, I think, next week.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's been on my agenda to talk to them for a while.
We're in
We have
agreement.
ideas.
Good.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right. So now we're at the CPS end of year balance. So this is actually pretty good news, especially for the finance committee. So we are ending with, which is typical some years, we are ending with a positive balance. I didn't anticipate it in May. As we started to close, it became more and more likely. We did not want to put it in, the revolving accounts and get them any higher. So we are ending in a surplus of just under 138,000 at CPS, and mostly contingency. So I did talk to Kerry LaFleur, did notify her, and she was happy. So we are ending with a positive balance at the high school. I think my first year at CPS. My first year we ended I think with about 67,000. And then last year, I think we were at 0. So
And that balance goes to free cash?
that balance goes to free cash. Yep.
So that's why Carrie is happy.
Yes, she is.
Yes.
Yes, she is.
All right.
And then the 100,
Yep.
same thing. Ending balance will always match, just so you know, Tracy and Alexa, if you haven't seen this before, but they will always match up.
Tracy, your accounting major can tell you all about
I know,
that.
she'll have to give me a lesson.
You are? Was it-
No, my daughter is
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
be a CPA,
Oh,
hopefully.
Let her dive in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She finds it very exciting,
This
more exciting than I do. so-
567 lines-ish that make this up, so.
All right.
So something over half of the encumbrances are out of district.
Correct.
Are you clamoring for those invoices now? How
Oh,
does that work?
Yeah, we are, and the special ed department had been working really since June to get all of these. So, but yes, we will have all of those. We have the invoices, we're just waiting to pay them. And this report was done, we ran a warrant today, and I think a lot of that was probably on it. So a lot of these encumbrances have gone away.
In terms of our prepays, are they roughly on pace with previous years?
Yeah,
Because I'm of a mind that once you start to prepay, you want to maintain
Correct.
that calendar, otherwise things get bollocksed up pretty
Yep.
fast.
about 400 to 500. And again, you're limited on how much you can prepay.
Correct.
And that's been the ballpark. We don't have a ton of collaborative tuitions. If we had a ton of those, then it would jack it up. But yeah, this has been the ballpark, especially for my 3 years. And I think prior to was similar as well. Ian has been here 8 or 9 years.
It was a little less because we
Didn't
were in
have
a
it.
different place
Yeah.
financially.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does the Concord School Committee have any other questions about the budget, or would they like to get more information, or are you scheduling your training sessions?
Yes,
any-
I
yeah.
need to do that.
Did any line items jump out to you, Jared, in terms of where we would all pay a different kind of attention this year?
Yeah, and I was talking to Laurie about this. So these numbers, these actuals, because we had so many grants, they're not good numbers to compare towards other budgets because we had the CARES Act, we had other grants. So nothing really jumped off the page. And so when I gave the departments their budget packets, I actually didn't include last year's actuals. The reason for that is because we made so many transfers to grants and so many things were on PPE and so many other things. Nothing, the utilities kind of did. I thought we would have saved a little bit more, even though we were in school, but we didn't.
Yeah.
Other than that, not really. And what I am doing between now and next Friday is I am really diving in, though, between the actuals versus budgeted, and you're going to see that in the fall budget book. And what I do for CPS is I compare it by location. So each school is a location, then we have a district-wide elementary location, and we have a district-wide location. So that's when I'll really see some patterns, and I'll be able to explain that next week or in 2 weeks. But yeah, nothing really
Okay.
jumped out.
Because included in this is the classroom monitors at the middle school, right?
No, that all was
Oh, this-
charged to.
Off this books?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. That would have really
that
brought up the paraprofessional line.
Right, that's why I was like, okay.
But it wasn't part of the approved budget as we
No.
normally understand it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which, you're going to be used, and this is why we're glad we budget the way we do, because if you're just going to be looking year to year to year, 20 and 21 are so laden with variables that make it hard to compare. It's just really great that we kind of take a clean approach every year, and that's just how we operate, because history doesn't mean the same as it used to. It used to be something you could inform, and many districts still budget that way, where they look at last year's and go, hey, did that work? And they roll up. But through COVID, it's served us really well to start again, which is obviously again this year where we're going to need to be.
Yeah, so I think Court asked before, it would be good to see the whole picture from just
Yep.
to sort of take it all in, like what did we
Yeah.
really do outside of our normal budget
Yes.
in terms of
Yes.
personnel and expenditures and
Yep.
and I know we didn't back off 100% this year. We've added some things back in, but certainly not at the same.
Not at the same level.
level.
No. No.
And as you said earlier, everybody's doing for the most part, their real job instead of
Correct. Which
trying to do
is
somebody
huge.
else's job or
Correct. Or
partly do-
multiple jobs, which
yes,
many people, including the ones at this table, we're backfilling whatever had to get allocated somewhere else. So
yes,
it's
everybody put on a little blue smock every once in a while.
yeah. So definitely a different
Good.
world again this year.
Great. Okay. So we'll meet again in 2 weeks, and we'll
Could
do
we
it.
just talk about the Thoreau?
Oh,
fire
absolutely.
Real quickly.
Glad you
I
reminded
just
me.
want to be sure we've
Yep.
had significant information happen over the last week or two, and I don't want another 2 weeks to go without us
Absolutely.
talking about
Thanks for
it.
reminding
But
me.
we can do
Yep.
it quickly. We met, and Jared's really running point, but I got closer as we needed to sort of regroup here.
You might just back for the.
Yeah,
Was
so
the
the
fire-
Thoreau had a fire June 28th. Fire in the roof over the 94 wing. The wing has been closed ever since. Angel has redistributed people throughout the school, 8 classrooms worth, which of course has trickled down. She displaced somebody else to relocate those rooms. We had initially thought that we would be in this in a shorter term approach. The good news is we're being very well supported in terms of a conservative approach of all that water. It's water damage, not fire, that's got us here, has led to, we're down to studs, no ceilings, no floors, no nothing. It really is a construction site. We had been working closely with the insurance company and the demolition crew. The rebuilding crew was the slower part to come, and a week and a half ago, Jared, Angel, and I met with everybody at the table and said, what's going on, folks? In that time, we've gotten a lot of new leadership and very close attention, and things are getting tightened up a lot. As they got tightened up a lot and reviewed, the timeline got longer. So it had been floated, it might be December. We're getting a definitive minimum of February now. So we also got clarity that the wing is all or nothing for fire alarm reasons, for safety reasons. There's no phasing people back in there.
No.
So we had been told that could be an option earlier. So just so you hear where it's been. So now that we're really clear on that, we became very clear with them that we can't stay the way we are and how that building's functioning, especially through the winter. And so they have found and visited. What I think we're best describing right now is essentially a modular wing, double-barreled 4 classrooms that's going to get placed out on the field, probably the middle of October. Electric, there'll be a septic attached, there'll be water tanks attached, bathrooms right on site. The little kids can't be going back and forth to the school.
winter, no.
And so we know that's a step forward, as much as it's a tough step forward is a step forward. So Angel's been working with her staff to start to figure out what this new phase of this is going to look like. She did notify parents tonight that this is where we are at a minimum of February with modulars coming in. So it's a lot. It's a lot. And on top of COVID, it's a lot. And what we've done has worked up till now, but certainly is not going to work for that portion of the year, if not longer. So we're in a better place. I think any project like this goes through its ups and downs. We're definitely back on the up curve again, regular weekly meetings and check-ins, and we'll continue to provide you updates. But it's a lot, and I just want to give my deep thanks. The Thoreau staff is
Yes.
just resilient and hanging in there, and we're watching kids thrive despite it all. So,
And the families.
and the
children.
families
Yes.
and just how everyone's making it work.
Yep.
So, but that's a lot. It's a lot to get moved in there. It's going to be a lot to get it set up, all of that. But it'll be
We'll-
better in the
we'll
longer
hope the
run.
supply chain is kind to us.
Yeah, you know, they didn't promise us they could make it happen until they had them in there in hand. And the folks that took that on for us this last week took it very seriously and certainly made it their priority. We can't say enough about some of the support we've gotten from both Service Master and Maya, and the insurance adjusters have been really hands-on and helpful.
good.
So,
Thank you for the update.
Movers lined up to move from their current
Service
spaces
Master
there?
will do all of that.
Okay.
They don't disappear just because we're demoed. They
Okay.
stick around and do all that in between
Okay.
stuff. So,
And
yes.
they can do that fairly quickly, so it won't be
They can.
disruptive to
No
teachers.
surprise to you that every elementary classroom is more than the boxes getting moved, and that's what
Right.
we're trying to figure out, how to best support teachers who
Mm-hmm.
have to do that last layer
Yeah.
themselves. So we're making our way through it. But
Okay.
more to come, but that's where we are. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great update, but it's the way it is.
Yeah, if you had told me a year ago we were going to have a fire
Yeah.
of this extent
No.
to what we were already doing, I'd say, no, we couldn't possibly handle that. Sure we can. So,
No options. So.
no, exactly.
Great. With no other business before us,
Guys.
Thank you.
Great.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn the Concord School Committee.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
All right.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.